Today, we're diving into a topic that is deeply personal yet profoundly universal: what happens when God is preparing you for marriage. It's a journey many of us long for, yet it often unfolds in ways we don't expect. When God is preparing you for marriage, one of the most important and often overlooked aspects is the refinement of your character. It's not just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person. That process doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the trials that stretch you, and in the decisions you make when compromise would be easier. Character is the bedrock of a healthy marriage. Love may spark a relationship, but it is character that sustains it. God is not simply concerned with your relationship status. He's concerned with who you are becoming in the waiting. He wants you to be patient when things don't go your way, gentle when emotions are high, and faithful even when feelings fade. That level of maturity doesn't come through wishing, it comes through surrender. God will often use life's delays and disruptions to expose what's hidden beneath the surface: pride, selfishness, insecurity, or impatience. Not to condemn you, but to transform you, because what isn't addressed before marriage gets magnified within it. This is the season where God teaches you how to serve without expecting applause. You begin to learn how to listen without immediately defending yourself, how to apologize without justification, and how to prioritize someone else's needs without losing your identity. These aren't just skills, they're reflections of Christ's love, forged through time spent with Him. You begin to realize that marriage isn't just about your happiness, it's about holiness. And holiness is often refined in the fire of discipline, not the ease of romance. Sometimes the refinement looks like waiting longer than you expected. It feels like you're being overlooked or forgotten, but in reality, God is working in the unseen. He's creating in you a strength that isn't swayed by loneliness or fear. He's building resilience, not rooted in self-reliance, but in trust. When you stop viewing the wait as a punishment and start seeing it as preparation, everything changes. You no longer chase people to fill a void, you let God fill it. You stop demanding answers and start cultivating faith. In this refining process, you also become aware of the areas where you used to settle emotionally, spiritually, or relationally. God sharpens your discernment so that you're not just drawn to what looks good, but to what is good for you. You grow in wisdom, and wisdom protects your future marriage more than attraction ever will. The refining of your character isn't glamorous. It often happens in silence, in solitude, and in struggles. But this is where God does His deepest work beneath the surface, preparing you not just to say, "I do," but to live it out with integrity. Because when God prepares you for marriage, He prepares you for more than a ceremony, He prepares you for covenant. And that kind of preparation starts with who you are when no one else is looking. When God is preparing you for marriage, healing and restoration are not optional, they are essential. Many people enter relationships hoping love will fix what's broken inside them, only to discover that unhealed wounds don't disappear with a new partner. In fact, relationships often expose what we thought we had buried. God, in His love and mercy, uses the waiting season to bring those wounds to light, not to shame us, but to set us free. Healing begins when you stop pretending you're okay and allow God to touch the places you've been trying to hide. That failed relationship, the betrayal you never talk about, the insecurity that shows up every time you feel unchosen, these are the areas God gently but firmly brings to the surface. Not so you can relive the pain, but so He can redeem it. Restoration is not about erasing the past. It's about transforming it so it no longer controls you. God doesn't want your marriage to carry the weight of your past. He wants you to walk into it whole. Often this healing requires you to face the uncomfortable. It might look like forgiveness of others and of yourself. It might mean admitting that you were wrong in places where pride still lingers. It might mean recognizing that the fear of rejection has been dictating your decisions for far too long. God doesn't rush this process because real healing takes time. Surface-level fixes won't sustain the kind of love He's preparing you for. He wants to make you emotionally available, spiritually grounded, and relationally healthy so that love doesn't feel like a rescue mission, but a mutual journey. Sometimes healing requires isolation, not loneliness, but intentional solitude. It's in this space where you're not distracted by new connections or temporary escapes that God speaks the loudest. He reveals how your identity has been tangled in approval, how you've chased validation in the arms of people who were never meant to hold your heart. And in that revelation, he begins to restore your self-worth, not based on someone choosing you, but based on the truth that he already has. Restoration also includes breaking generational patterns. Maybe you grew up in a home where love was transactional or where communication meant conflict. God prepares you to break that cycle, not by ignoring it, but by confronting it. He teaches you new ways of thinking, speaking, and responding, ways that reflect grace rather than survival. You learn that vulnerability isn't weakness, and that setting boundaries is not selfish but wise. Through this journey, God replaces your fear with peace. He exchanges bitterness for joy. He takes your story, flawed, messy, beautiful, and turns it into something that can bless your future spouse rather than burden them. So while healing and restoration may feel like detours, they are actually divine appointments, because the person who is healed can love without fear, commit without hesitation, and build a marriage that reflects the wholeness God intended from the start. When God is preparing you for marriage, aligning your purpose becomes a pivotal part of the journey. It's not just about finding someone who makes you feel good or shares your interests. It's about partnering with someone whose life direction complements yours. Before God brings another person into your life, he often begins by refining your sense of identity, calling, and the unique path he has for you. Purpose is the compass that keeps a relationship moving in the right direction, and without it, even love can lose its way. This alignment doesn't happen by accident. God often uses the waiting season to strip away false ideas about who you are and what your life should look like. You might have chased dreams that were never yours or tried to fit into molds that didn't reflect your calling. In this time of preparation, God invites you to reconnect with who he created you to be. He gives you clarity about your passions, your values, and your vision, not just for your career, but for your lifestyle, your impact, and your faith. As this clarity develops, it becomes the foundation for choosing a partner who walks in step with it, not in opposition to it. Purpose alignment doesn't mean two identical paths. It means two people who understand their own calling well enough to support and strengthen each other's journey. A relationship with aligned purpose creates space for shared growth, not silent competition. That's why God spends time preparing you first. He wants to make sure you're not looking for someone to define your purpose, but someone who can walk beside you in it. When both individuals are rooted in their God-given identity, they bring strength and clarity into the relationship, not confusion and dependence. This preparation often includes the removal of distractions. There are times when God will close doors that look promising, not to punish you, but to protect your path. You might not understand it in the moment, but in hindsight, you'll see how God was guarding the vision he placed in you. Some connections end not because they were bad people, but because they were pulling you in a direction that didn't match your calling. God's alignment is never random. He is intentional, ensuring that the person you join your life with doesn't pull you off course, but runs the race beside you. It's also during this time that you begin to see how your purpose isn't just about you. Marriage is not simply about compatibility and personality. It's about unity and mission. When God aligns two people with shared vision, their union becomes more than romance. It becomes ministry. Together, they reflect a bigger picture of God's love, influence others through their unity, and serve a purpose that neither could fulfill alone. So while it might feel like God is delaying, what he's really doing is aligning. He's preparing your heart, your direction, and your future so that when the right person arrives, you'll recognize that they don't complete your purpose, they complement it. When God is preparing you for marriage, one of the most vital things he does is establish a strong spiritual foundation in your life. Before you ever stand beside someone at the altar, God invites you to stand with him in the secret place. He knows that the strength of any marriage is directly tied to the spiritual depth of the individuals within it. Romance fades, emotions shift, and challenges will come, but a relationship rooted in faith has a solid ground to endure storms. This foundation begins with intimacy with God. He teaches you how to hear his voice, how to rest in his presence, and how to trust his timing. These aren't just spiritual disciplines, they're life skills that directly impact how you will love, lead, and support in a marriage. When you know God as your source of love, peace, and identity, you stop putting unrealistic expectations on your future spouse to be those things for you. You stop demanding perfection from a person and instead lean on the grace of a perfect God. During this time, God also reveals areas of spiritual immaturity. Maybe you react out of fear rather than faith. Maybe you avoid hard conversations or struggle with forgiveness. Rather than hiding those weaknesses, God uses them as teaching moments. He doesn't expect perfection, but He does expect growth. He shapes your heart so that when conflict arises in your future relationship, you respond not just with emotion, but with wisdom anchored in His truth. Building a spiritual foundation also means learning how to lead or follow spiritually. For some, it's learning how to pray openly and consistently, not just for yourself, but for another. For others, it's recognizing the importance of spiritual submission, not in terms of control, but in mutual humility and respect. God teaches you how to be accountable, how to be honest, and how to listen not just to your partner, but to Him. Because without His guidance, even the best intentions can fall short. God also uses this time to test your dependency. Do you seek Him only when you want answers about a relationship, or do you pursue Him simply because He is worthy? He often waits to bring the right person until your heart is more anchored in Him than in the idea of marriage. When your love for God becomes central, your heart becomes safer for someone else to love. You no longer approach marriage with desperation, but with discernment. A strong spiritual foundation doesn't mean you'll have a perfect marriage, but it does mean you'll have the tools to navigate it. You'll know how to forgive when it's hard, how to stand in faith when things don't make sense, and how to put love into action even when you don't feel like it. Because when Christ is your foundation, your relationship doesn't just survive, it becomes a living testimony of His grace, power, and presence. When God is preparing you for marriage, one of the deepest lessons He teaches is how to develop contentment and patience. This is not the kind of contentment that comes from settling or pretending everything is fine. And it's not the kind of patience that simply waits with a frustrated heart. It's a transformation of your spirit where you learn to trust that God's timing is not just delayed, it's intentional. Contentment is the ability to find peace in your present, even when your future is still unfolding. This process begins when you stop constantly looking ahead and start recognizing the value of where you are right now. It's in this season of singleness where God begins to show you that your worth isn't tied to your relationship status. He reminds you that you're not incomplete or behind. You're exactly where you need to be for Him to do a specific work in you. And when your eyes are open to that truth, what once felt like waiting starts to feel like preparation. Patience in this context is more than just waiting, it's waiting well. It's choosing not to rush into connections out of fear, loneliness, or comparison. It's resisting the urge to manipulate outcomes or force relationships that aren't God-ordained. Sometimes that means turning down good opportunities because they're not God opportunities. And that's not easy. But when you trust that God knows you better than you know yourself, patience becomes an act of worship. You're saying, God, I believe your plan is better than mine. Developing contentment also means releasing the lies that try to steal your joy. Lies like you're running out of time or everyone else is moving on without you. These thoughts create anxiety and pressure, pushing you to make decisions from a place of fear. But contentment silences those voices. It reminds you that your story doesn't have to look like anyone else's because God is writing something unique in your life. You learn to celebrate others without feeling left behind and to rest in the assurance that what is meant for you will not miss you. In this space, God also teaches you to enjoy your own company, to build a full and meaningful life that isn't on pause while you wait for someone to join it. You develop habits, rhythms, and disciplines that deepen your walk with God and expand your capacity to love others well. You begin to see that joy isn't found in a future spouse. It's cultivated in a present relationship with Jesus. And ironically, it's often when you stop striving and start surrendering that God brings the right person into your life. This kind of patience and contentment isn't passive, it's powerful. It strengthens your character, protects your heart, and positions you for a relationship built not on desperation, but on divine timing. When you've learned to be content and patient, you don't just enter into marriage longing for fulfillment, you bring fulfillment with you. When God is preparing you for marriage, one of the most transformative things He does is redefine your expectations of love and partnership. Many people enter relationships shaped by romanticized ideals from movies, social media, or painful pasts. Love is often seen as a feeling that should always be exciting, effortless, or emotionally fulfilling. But God shifts that perspective. He begins to show you that love isn't just about being chosen, it's about choosing. It's not just about chemistry, it's about commitment. This redefinition starts by exposing the unrealistic standards we carry. We may expect our partner to always understand us, to never disappoint us, or to constantly meet our emotional needs. But God gently teaches that real love is not about perfection, it's about grace. He starts showing us that marriage isn't built on fleeting emotions or flawless compatibility. It's built on a foundation of humility, sacrifice, forgiveness, and the willingness to grow together over time. These aren't glamorous concepts, but they're what sustain a partnership when the excitement fades and real life begins. God also shifts how you define what a perfect match looks like. You might have a long list of qualities, preferences, or even deal breakers shaped more by culture than calling. But as He works on your heart, He reorients your focus. He teaches you to prioritize faith over status, character over charm, and consistency over charisma. He opens your eyes to qualities that will matter decades into marriage, like emotional stability, spiritual maturity, kindness, and the ability to walk through hardship without running away. In this process, you also begin to understand that partnership means mutual submission, not competition or control. God teaches you that a true partnership is two people committed to carrying each other's burdens, to encouraging one another's growth, and to seeking God together above all else. You stop asking, "How will this person make me happy?" and start asking, "How can we walk in purpose together?" Love becomes less about getting and more about giving freely, consistently, and sacrificially. Redefining love also means embracing the uncomfortable truth that it won't always feel good. There will be moments of misunderstanding, conflict, and pain. But God reminds you that those moments aren't signs of failure, they're opportunities for growth. He shows you how love chooses to stay, to communicate, and to fight for unity rather than escape at the first sign of tension. You begin to value loyalty, vulnerability, and perseverance over the thrill of novelty or the illusion of perfection. Most of all, God teaches you to mirror His love, a love that is patient, kind, slow to anger, and rich in mercy. When that becomes your standard, you stop chasing relationships for validation. You start building connections based on truth, purpose, and mutual surrender to God's plan. And in doing so, you become the kind of partner who not only understands love, but lives it faithfully, intentionally, and with open hands. In the end, when God is preparing you for marriage, He's not simply setting you up for a beautiful wedding. He's forming you for a lifelong covenant. Every delay, every season of silence, every internal shift is part of a divine process meant to shape you into someone who can love with wisdom, serve with humility, and walk in unity. He refines your character so you can handle commitment with maturity. He heals your heart so you don't carry old wounds into new promises. He aligns your purpose so you don't walk into partnership confused about your direction. He lays a spiritual foundation so your relationship is anchored in truth, not tossed by feelings. He teaches you contentment and patience so that your joy isn't dependent on a timeline. And He redefines your understanding of love, not as a feeling to chase, but as a choice to embody. This is what happens when God prepares you for marriage. He prepares every part of you, not just for the person you will meet, but for the person you're becoming. It's not about waiting passively, it's about growing intentionally. So trust the process. Let Him do the deep work. Because when His preparation meets His timing, the result isn't just a relationship, it's a testimony.